Good evening and welcome to this week's news programme. Here we are again, but much better weather this week, so that makes life a little easier. Well, in the news tonight, Prime Minister Boris Johnson set out earlier this week our route map out of the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown. And of course that was very welcome. The first step is on 8th of May when schools open up again. Step 2 is on the 12th of April when non-essential retail can open up and some indoor leisure use can start for individuals, and hospitality organisations can serve people outside who are sat outside. Then on step 3 on the 17th of May, a lot of the outdoor rules will be lifted and indoor venues can open up, but with some limits. So things like sporting events, etc. may be allowed, and some limited use of theatres. And then of course on the 21st of June, the general restrictions across everything are planned to be lifted. Of course, these are the earliest dates that things are planned to happen, and it will depend on what happens with the pandemic and the various numbers that the government monitor. It's also not known yet whether, when we get to the 21st of June, if that is the date that we hit for the general restrictions to be lifted, that there may be some requirements for residual ongoing safety things, such as wearing masks and social distancing and things that control large gatherings. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think the key message is, though, it's early days. We need to follow the rules still and to get our vaccinations if we're called for them. And let's hope that summer 2021 is going to be better for all of us. Certainly if this week's weather or the last few days' weather's anything to go by, then it will be very nice. Of course, the other key thing government-wise this week is the 3rd of March, that's Wednesday. Chancellor Rishi Sunak will rise to his feet at around 12:30 in the Houses of Parliament, having left 11 Downing Street with his little red battered dispatch box, and will deliver the budget. And of course, we'll all be waiting to see what he's got to deliver in the budget, and we'll hear more about that later in tonight's programme. Passengers travelling on the line between Bristol and Weymouth can look forward to a more reliable railway following vital maintenance activities that have been done between Dorchester West and Castle Cary last week. Most of them happened over a 5-day closure period and happened to the cutting near Yeovil Pen Mill, and work was done to improve its stability and monitoring of the track and general things to improve track safety, such as new fencing. The ride should now be much smoother, and there's also been some refurbishments at Yeovil Pen Mill Station as well. Mark Killick, who is the Network Retail Route Director for Wessex, said, "We'd like to say thank you to all our passengers for their patience during this line closure. The railway cutting rescaling is a vital piece of maintenance on this important line for local communities. The work we've carried out will keep passengers moving along into the future." The work carried out at Yeovil Pen Mill area forms part of Network Rail's £2 billion investment on the Wessex route to improve train journeys and keep passengers moving for decades to come. There will be more maintenance to be done, and that will be done later in the year. Dorset Council have published their Dorset Harbour strategy on the development of the 3 harbours under their management, which is Weymouth, Bridport and Lyme Regis. The Dorset Coast Forum have been working with the Dorset Council Harbours Committee to help develop the new strategy, which will unify the harbours under Dorset Council's management. The changes follow a consultation undertaken between September and October last year. Councillor Ray Bryan, Dorset Council's portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment, has said that Dorset Council continue to be committed to working with our communities to ensure they have a say on how our harbours are managed, and that they are a place that they will be proud of to use for work or leisure. The new strategy will set out how harbours can thrive now and into the future. And if you're interested in that, do pop along to the Dorset Council website, where you will find a copy of the strategy. Turning to Dorset Police, Dorset police officers are investigating a burglary where car keys were stolen and the subsequent theft of number plates, right in the heart of our community here in WykeRegis. They're appealing for witnesses, for anybody that's seen anything, or anybody that has got local CCTV footage. The incident happened between 11 p.m. on Saturday the 20th of February, that's last Saturday, and 8:45 on Sunday morning, 21st of February, when a set of car keys were stolen from an address in Marlborough Avenue, WykeRegis. It is believed access was gained to the property via an insecure door. A white Peugeot was parked on the road outside and this was taken. During the same night it was reported that the front and back number plates were stolen from another white Peugeot that was parked on a road near to All Saints Church. Police have asked for local residents to examine any home CCTV footage that they have, or if they know anything about these incidents, to contact Dorset Police on 101 or anonymously via Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Weymouth Town Council have announced plans to hold its annual town assembly on the 17th of March at 7 p.m. Excuse me. The council are encouraging members of the public to submit any questions or request any areas for discussion that they are interested in advance of the meeting. Due to the coronavirus restrictions, the event will take place virtually online, and residents can watch online at the Weymouth Council's Facebook page, or a recorded version will also be available on the Weymouth Town Council website after the event. The council also hope to hold face-to-face town meetings later in the year if restrictions allow. The annual meeting is not a council meeting, but a meeting for the voting public. It gives residents the opportunity to ask questions about Weymouth and discuss community issues. It's also a chance to hear more about the work of the town council and what has been done over the last year. Our Mayor for Weymouth Town Council, Graham Winter, said, "I'm delighted that this meeting can go ahead and look forward to hearing the thoughts, views and questions from residents. The last year has shown how strong we are as a community, and we've seen admirable efforts from the council and local people working under very difficult circumstances. We feel it's more important than ever for us to come together and to reflect on what we have learnt after a challenging year. It will help us also move forward in a positive way with the needs of our community at the heart of what we do." If you're interested in attending that meeting virtually, or you want to submit some questions or topics for discussion in advance, pop along to the Weymouth Town Council website where you'll find all the necessary details, and that is at www.weymouthtowncouncil.gov.uk. Quite easy to remember that one. www.weymouthtowncouncil.gov.uk. We're back to Dorset Police again, and they're appealing for witnesses for anyone who has information to come forward following a commercial burglary, this time in Weymouth. At around 8:35 on Monday the 22nd of February, it was reported that a break-in had occurred at Hunger Hill Garage on Lower Putton Lane. It's believed that the burglary took place during the evening of Sunday the 21st of February. A number of power tools and snap-on hand tools were stolen. If you've got any information on that, again, contact Dorset Police via 101 or Crime Stoppers. Turning to the Dorset Steam Fair, the organisers of the Great Dorset Steam Fair have said that unfortunately the Steam Fair will not go ahead again this year. They've said that following a further review by the Great Dorset Steam Fair Board of Directors, it is with much regret and sadness that they can confirm that the 2021 Great Dorset Steam Fair, which was scheduled to take place from Thursday the 26th to Monday the 30th of August, has been cancelled. They go on to say they'd been continued to closely monitor the coronavirus pandemic over the past few weeks, and whilst the ongoing vaccination programme is progressing well, and that should be commended, is nevertheless become necessary to cancel the event as it is unfeasible to run it later this year. It's been a very difficult decision for them to make, as of course they've been pre-planning for several months, and the cancellation has happened because they've now come to that time, that critical time that they've had to make a decision, because it's that this time now that they have to confirm many of the major contractors and actually commit to use them, and therefore they feel there's no other option than to make the decision not to continue with the event this year and to focus their efforts on the 2022 show. It's obviously the second year that the Great Dorset Steam Fair has had to be cancelled. However, the organisers have reassured everyone that they are working hard on 2022 and they will put all their efforts into ensuring that the show in 2022 goes ahead. And the dates planned for this are Thursday the 25th to Monday the 29th of August. Tickets and camping bookings will open at Christmas time 2021. In the meantime, they can announce some good news that the Steam Fair FM radio station will once again be broadcasting nationwide online throughout the original dates of this year's show, with lots of news about the show, more archive recordings, big prize competitions and dedications for friends and family for those people that always go along to the show. Regrettably, we've also learned just today that the Weymouth Folk Festival that's held on Weymouth Harbour side each year is also cancelled this year. Let's hope that all of these events will be back with us for 2022, and maybe some of those events that are later in the summer and perhaps smaller and with not so much big commitments as things like the Dorset Steam Fair will actually be able to run this summer, but we'll just have to wait and see on that front. Following an announcement from the Department of Health and Social Care, unpaid carers in the Dorset Council area can now request free PPE, that's personal protective equipment, for when they are carrying out their care responsibilities. There's a focus on what's called extra resident carers. That's those who live outside of the household of the person they care for. So if you volunteer and care for somebody but you don't actually live in with them, this applies to you. Unpaid care that is delivered by family members or friends for those who have lifelong conditions, illnesses or disabilities, serious injury or mental health conditions or addiction, and those that need support. So that's a very valuable work done by volunteers helping friends and family. Obviously, those sort of people carry out a range of activities delivering personal care and helping with washing and dressing and feeding, etc. And this new scheme is there specifically to provide PPE for those people. Dorset Council is going to be the first contact point for inquiries about this and for those carers to register their needs. So pop along to the Dorset Council website and search for PPE for carers, and I'm sure that all the relevant information will come up, or if not, give Dorset Council switchboard a call. Weymouth's historic Jubilee clock, which we all know about on the seafront, there it is unfortunately affected by a fault with its mechanism at the moment and is causing it to run slow. The council is drafting in a specialist firm that has been maintaining the clock for over 50 years in a bid to have it running on time once again. A spokesman for Weymouth Town Council said that the clock receives a radio signal and so would normally auto-correct by itself, but that unfortunately there is a fault with the mechanism, which means it's unable to do that currently. They're working with Smiths of Derby, the clock makers who have maintained the clock for over 50 years, to get this fixed, and they hope to have the problem resolved as soon as possible. And we're very familiar with Smiths of Derby in WykeRegis, as they also maintain the auto-correcting clock on the tower at All Saints Church. The freestanding clock tower was erected to commemorate the Golden Jubilee of Queen Victoria and became Grade 1 listed in 1974. It was erected in 1888. It was originally located in front of the promenade and jutted out into the sands of Weymouth Beach. However, it was moved to its current position in the 1920s so that the promenade could be extended to protect the beach from the encroachment of shingle from the eastern end. The top tower was also painted in bright colours during the same decade. More recently, of course, we've seen the clock face being lit up in all sorts of different colours to raise awareness of various national and local charities. On technology, Weymouth is getting its first 5G mobile mast. It's to be located on Weymouth Way, just off the Manor roundabout. It's the first 5G mast in Weymouth and will bring 5G services to the area for the first time. listeners will know that Weymouth is often Weymouth and Port and the whole area is actually often at the bottom of the pile when things like new technology comes in, like fibre broadband and things like that. We're often those people that have to wait for some time to catch up. So it's nice that 5G is coming. The mast is 18 metres high, and there no doubt will be more to come as the technology is rolled out further in the future. And finally, we're back to Dorset Police once again, and this is one I've just popped in the last minute. They are investigating a serious road traffic collision in Weymouth that happened earlier today and are appealing for witnesses or anyone who has information to come forward. The incident, which happened on Rodwell Road, was reported to police at 10:23 this morning, Saturday the 27th of February, and it appears that a cyclist came off his bicycle and then may have been hit by a car. The cyclist, who is a local man, was taken to Southampton General Hospital in a life-threatening condition. And I understand he is, or he or she, well, it's a local man, is in a grave condition. So the police are obviously very interested to hear from anyone who witnessed that accident so that they can find out exactly what happened. Because there were reports that a car may have collided with the cyclist. However, this is yet to be confirmed. So again, with that one, like all the information requested by Dorset Police, do give them a call on 101 or via Crime Stoppers anonymously if you obviously don't want to be in a position to give your name or contact details. So that's our headlines tonight. Lots in our headlines tonight. Moving on to our first story this evening. On Monday, March the 1st, we mark St David's Day, the patron saint of Wales. It's been celebrated for over 1400 years, and so Janet Hall has been having a look into the history of St David and St David's Day.
Hello. Did you know that Monday, March the 1st, was St David's Day? You'll find bright yellow daffodils, green leeks, and vibrant traditional costumes all over the place. A day of parades, concerts, and festivals of music, language, and culture. Flags are flown. The national anthem is sung with gusto. Children go to school, normally, in traditional Welsh dress. And everyone, well, nearly everyone, proudly pins a daffodil or a leek to their lapel. So who was St David? David was reputedly born on a cliff top near Non's Chapel on the southwest Wales coast during a fierce storm. Both his parents were descended from Welsh royalty. The site of St David's birth is marked by the ruins of a tiny ancient chapel close to a holy well, and the more recent 18th century chapel dedicated to his mother, Non, can still be seen near St David's Cathedral. In medieval times it was believed that St David was the nephew of King Arthur, and legend has it that the patron saint of Ireland, St Patrick, also was said to have been born near the present-day city of St David's. And he foresaw the birth of David in approximately 520 AD. The young David grew up to be a priest. According to legend, David performed several miracles in his life. It is also said that during a battle against the Saxons, David advised his soldiers to wear leeks in their hats so that they could easily be distinguished from their enemies, which is why the leek is one of the emblems of Wales. One of the famous stories about St David is from when he was speaking to a large crowd and someone in the crowd shouted, "We won't be able to see or hear him." And then the ground on which David stood rose up until he was standing on a hill, making it much easier for everyone to see and hear him. Here are 3 more fascinating facts about David. He was a vegetarian. He and his monks ploughed fields by hand and didn't eat meat. It is also believed that St. David himself only ate leeks and drank water. Some of his words live on. His last words to his followers before his death are thought to have been, "Be joyful, keep the faith, and do the little things that you have heard and seen me do." The third thing is he left his mark. It is said that he went on a special religious journey to Jerusalem and brought back a stone with him. The stone now sits on an altar in St. David's Cathedral, which was built on the site of St. David's original monastery. St. David died on the 1st of March, 589. He was canonized by Pope Calixtus in the 12th century, and we have celebrated St. David's Day ever since. When lockdown is over, you might like to go to St. David's to see the cathedral. Although it is called a city, it is quite a small place, dominated by the cathedral. Usually, when we aren't in lockdown, there's plenty happening on March the 1st. The little city brings out bunting for a weekend of events in St. David's Cathedral and all around the town. And there's the annual Dragon Parade and a marathon which takes place through the undulating paths of the Pembrokeshire Coast Path and all around the St. David's Peninsula. And there are celebrations in other parts of Wales too. One of the biggest of these is a 2-day festival of food and entertainment in Swansea. And across the country, lots of towns and villages host their own parades and concerts, while many of the country's castles and heritage sites let people come to visit them for free. This year, if you want to celebrate St. David's Day, there are many things still happening online. So it just remains for me to say,
Dydd Gwyl Dewi hapus!
Happy St. David's Day.
Thank you, Janet, especially for that little bit of Welsh at the end. I wonder who will remember how to say Happy St. David's Day if they see anybody on Monday. As we mentioned at the start of the programme, it's Budget Day on Wednesday. And many of us, I'm sure, will be watching with interest to see what the Chancellor has in store for us. Lydia has been looking into the budget and what we are likely to hear about this week.
This year's budget will be very closely watched because of the massive economic effects of the pandemic. The choices Chancellor Rishi Sunak makes will shape the finances of the UK. Each year, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the government's chief finance minister, makes a budget statement to MPs in the House of Commons. It outlines the state of the economy and the government's plans for raising or lowering taxes. It also includes big decisions on what the government will spend money on. The budget also includes forecasts for how the UK economy could perform in future. This year's budget speech will be delivered on Wednesday the 3rd of March. It usually starts at about 12:30 and lasts around an hour. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer will then give his response straight afterwards. Then MPs debate the budget and the finance bill, which puts the Chancellor's proposals into law. The government says it will set out the next phase of the plan to tackle the virus and protect jobs. The Chancellor is under pressure to address two main issues. Firstly, whether the UK will begin paying off the huge debts built up during the pandemic. And secondly, how the government will support the people and businesses hit the hardest. Before the 2019 election, the Conservative Party said it would not increase these taxes. But this was before the pandemic, and the Chancellor could argue circumstances have changed. Some people say tax rises are needed and should be introduced quickly. Others say there is no need to act now because the cost of borrowing is cheap, and the economy is fragile. Some parts of the budget, such as defence spending, affect the whole of the UK. Others, such as education, only affect England. This is because Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland make their own decisions. The Institute of Fiscal Studies was formed to promote better public financial information and understanding, They now share with us more information about the budget.
Every year, the government holds a budget. This is an opportunity for the Chancellor to set the government's plans for taxes and spending. Unlike many other government proposals, the budget doesn't have a so-called green paper where the government lays out its thinking in advance to provoke discussion. This means that, apart from leaks to the press, intended and otherwise, what's in the budget remains a secret until the Chancellor stands up and starts talking. The budget contains 4 main items. First, the government publishes its updated economic and fiscal forecasts, telling us what might happen to the economy over the next 5 years, including things like GDP, inflation, wages and unemployment, as well as what's expected for spending, tax receipts, the deficit, and the debt. Historically, this was produced by the Treasury and was directly under the control of the Chancellor and therefore potentially subject to politically motivated wishful thinking. But since 2010, that responsibility has been shifted to the Office for Budget Responsibility. Second, changes to taxation. For every £10 of national income, the government takes around £4 in tax revenue. This revenue is made up of a broad array of taxes, from very big ones like income tax and VAT, to smaller ones like tobacco duty. The budget is the main time for making changes to the rates, base and structure of taxes, or to invent new taxes altogether. Third, changes to spending on public services, things like education, health and defence. The key event which sets spending limits on these things isn't the budget, but the spending review which comes around every few years, though often a budget and a spending review are published at the same time. Even though the spending review sets the big picture direction of spending on public services, often chancellors change those plans at budgets, adding a bit more to struggling services, or taking a bit off to save money if tax receipts have come in less than expected. Fourth, changes to social security. Outside of public services, social security is the major item of government spending, making up about a quarter of government spending and including the state pension, disability benefits, and universal credit. At budgets, chancellors change the rates for these payments as well as their rules, widening or narrowing eligibility. Sometimes the government also announces new regulations at a budget, even if they aren't directly linked to tax or spending. Recent budgets have included the introduction of the national living wage, changes to social housing rents, and tighter gambling restrictions. The choices the government makes at the budget are important. They directly affect our incomes, the wider economy, the amount spent on public services, and the government's finances. Being in the midst of the COVID pandemic, this budget will be a bit different to those of years past. The forecasts are even more uncertain than normal, and it probably makes even more sense than usual to think of the tax and spending plans as being written in pencil rather than pen. The immediate choices the government faces are around its intentions for the big support programs introduced last year, including those aimed at households like the furlough scheme and boost to universal credit, and those aimed at companies like loans and business rates relief. Beyond those very immediate considerations, the government will be looking to set out its agenda for the recovery and what it plans to do to support it, and the more general transition that the economy needs to make to a post-COVID, post-Brexit world in which we're moving towards net zero carbon emissions.
There we go, that report from Lydia and the video from the Institute of Fiscal Studies giving us some thoughts on the budget coming up this week. And I'm sure there'll be something for us to report on the budget next week. And I have to say, not only would I not like to be the Prime Minister at a time of pandemic, but I also wouldn't like to be the Chancellor trying to balance the book. So our good luck wishes go to Rishi Sunak this week as he tries to keep everybody happy with how he's managing the country's finances. It's now time to hear from our intrepid virtual walkers how they're doing on their walk from Land's End to John O'Groats and, of course, back again. And last week we left them at Sheringham Park on the way back from John O'Groats. And let's have a look and see where they've got to this week and where they stopped off and looked at on the way back. Here we go, over to our intrepid walkers.
Hello everyone, here I am again for another update on our lockdown walk. If you remember, we reached Sheringham last week. So early in the morning, we left Sheringham Park and took the coast road. where we visited Felbrigg Hall for coffee and a nice slice of National Trust cake. Continuing along the road, we passed through Great Yarmouth and Lowestoft. We came to a place where I really thought we ought to do a bit of landscape painting. But I think Ali might have got the wrong idea, because he rushed off to B&Q. Next we went inland to visit Ely, where I had a wonderful retreat a few years ago, doing painting and looking at the cathedral. So it was nice to go back and have another look. It has stunning stained glass windows and a beautiful vaulted roof. From Ely we headed for Cambridge with its ancient university. We walked along the River Cam via the Bridge of Sighs. We rested by the side of the river, and Ali, of course, had to try his hand at punting. We then walked on to Bletchley Park, where the Second World War code breakers worked. It always makes me think of a friend I had in Lulworth who worked there during the war. She never forgot it. Now I understand that there are some people from All Saints who were there as well, including Alan and Betty Rogers. We then turned south to the lovely Chiltern Hills via Chinnor, where Janet Langston's daughter lives. So we waved at her and ended up in Marlow on the banks of the Thames. Following the river downstream, we came to Windsor Castle. The Queen was at home, but sadly she never asked us in for tea. So we went on, past Staines and Shepperton Film Studios, where Mary's uncle had been head gardener, and we arrived at Hampton Court. We admired the stunning architecture and marvelled at the hammer beam ceiling in the Great Hall, and then strolled through the beautiful grounds. Some of us had a bit of trouble in the maze, but eventually we all got together again and continued along the riverbank through Twickenham with its rugby ground and arrived at the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew. Then we had a 10-mile walk in order to make most of our visit, a short stroll to us hardy walkers, and the next stop was Buckingham Palace. To make the most of our visit to the capital, we embarked on a series of signposted walks. The first, the Jubilee Greenway, took us past many of the 2012 Olympic venues and included Greenwich Park, where Jenny left us to spend some time with her son and his family, who lived nearby. While we were there, I wanted a trip to the Tate Modern, but some people stayed around looking at the many sights of central London. They came back to Tate Modern after their sightseeing, and we had another meal at that excellent cafe, and then headed east along the north bank of the River Thames, past the Royal Docks, then through the many surprisingly green spaces that there are in southeast London, finishing at Crystal Palace, where Ali was very excited about the maze and the dinosaur trail. After all, Ali is quite good with monsters. So I'll bet you're all wondering where we ended up this week. Well, now it's time for Jeff Rivers' report. Another fantastic week. Where will it all end? See you next week to find out. Bye for now.
Thank you to Janet and Jeff, and of course our walkers are all out walking and clocking in their miles each week to put our virtual walk from Land's End to John O'Groats and back again together. And following on from the walking theme, at the current time a lot more people are out walking and getting exercise locally within their communities and out into the countryside, and it has presented a problem. There has been an increase in litter and the dumping of rubbish. Only this last week I've noticed, even in our community in WykeRegis, when I've been out walking my dog in the evening, that there's been rubbish dumped in a local bus shelter. There's a broken down TV just dumped on the pavement down the road, and we seem to be lacking the care of keeping our community tidy. And people are getting lazy with getting rid of their rubbish and not going to the tip or disposing of it properly. Well, the government are getting concerned about this, particularly in the countryside, and they've put together a little video asking us all to keep our countryside clear and to pick up our litter. So we'll just see the report from the government now.
Coronavirus, reducing litter. Spending time outdoors? Take a bag for your rubbish. More people than ever are enjoying the great outdoors. But litter is ruining our parks and countryside. When you go out, don't assume bins will be available, and don't leave rubbish next to a full bin. Take your rubbish home with you to throw away or recycle. Litter harms our wildlife and pollutes our waters. So let's look after our great outdoors together.
I'm sure most of you actually who do go out walking do, if you take anything with you, take your litter home. But if we can promote that and encourage others to take the litter home as well, and ask anyone that's watching to make sure they dispose of their rubbish properly, then we'll keep our community safe for our wildlife and clean for all of us to enjoy. Well, now it's that time in the programme where we look at the weather for the week ahead, and first of all to the national weather forecast. And tonight at the Met Office we've got Aidan McGivern, who's going to tell us about the national forecast for the weekend and the week ahead.
Hi there, a cracking weekend coming up with high pressure in charge, dry for most, still some frost and fog around during the nighttime and the mornings. Temperatures reaching 11 to 14 Celsius, I think the warm spots, London and eastern Scotland. Into Saturday night, and the weather front still trapped under the area of high pressure, loses its identity, but it's still an area of increased moisture, and that will mean that it will provide the ingredients for some fairly dense mist and fog patches through central parts of the UK overnight. It will also keep things frost-free where the low cloud lingers, but otherwise frosty in the south and across Scotland. A bright start then, where we've got the frost for southern areas and northern Scotland. Still some fog patches around, and perhaps some more widespread low cloud mist and fog for northern England into southern Scotland. However, by the afternoon, most places brightening up. Long spells of sunshine for many, and it's going to feel pleasant with light winds and temperatures once again widely above average. I think 11 to 13 Celsius, so perhaps a degree or so lower compared to Saturday, particularly where we start off with that early frost. The weather stays settled into the start of next week with high pressure remaining in place. Follow us on social media for all the latest. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Aidan. That was the national weather forecast. And what does the local weather hold for us this week? Whoops, knocking everything over here. Well, the local weather, it's going to be mild this week, and it's going to be sunny spells. There is the chance of a couple of showers midweek, but generally a warmer, milder week with sunny spells. So that is to be welcomed, and nice week for going out walking. So, what about traffic and travel? Well, the good news is on the traffic and travel front, other than the road works on Custom House Quay, there's nothing reported as happening in the week ahead. That doesn't mean that we might not see traffic lights pop up somewhere and holes be dug, but there's nothing that's been reported as planned for the week ahead affecting our main arterial routes. However, on the trains over the weekend, there are bus replacement services between Eastleigh and Brockenhurst and Southampton Central as works go on in that area and affects both Great Western and South Western train services running through Southampton, and that work continues tomorrow. Moving to what's on, we mentioned last week that both the Knowth Fort and Weymouth Pavilion are starting to publish information about what might be coming up, and the Knowth Fort are advertising their radio-controlled tanks at the Knowth Fort starting on the 16th of May and also returning in June, July, August and September. That's a very popular event. I'm sure as the weeks go on now we'll see more events coming up for the Knowth Fort. They've also got a presentation of Treasure Island by This Is My Theatre on the 2nd of June. That should be okay to go ahead because it's open air and they can socially distance people. So that's after the successful performance of the Three Musketeers last year. So if you're interested in that, pop along to the Knowth Fort website, and I'll just put their website and Weymouth Pavilions up on the screen for you. Weymouth Pavilion have also now announced that in line with the government guidance, they hope to be able to offer some performances under restrictions and spacing from the 17th of May. And they say very much that they are looking forward to the 21st of June when they will start to get very busy. So they are saying hold on to your hats and watch out for all the things coming at Weymouth Pavilion over the latter half of the summer. And obviously we wish the Knowth, Weymouth Pavilion, the Sea Life Centre and all the local venues in Weymouth, as well as our pubs and hotels, all the best as things open up again and hopefully can make the community vibrant again for our local people and for our holidaymakers, as we are expecting many people in the latter parts of this year and into next year to have staycations rather than going abroad. Usually at this part in our programme we have a review of an up-and-coming film, and I've picked a Disney Pixar film that is going to be out in a couple of months' time, but I thought it was worth giving ample warning of this one, and I'm trying to balance each week between the mix between more adult-focused films and those for the younger members of our community. Disney Pixar invites us to experience a summer like never before when Luca arrives in the summer, round about June we're expecting. Set in a beautiful seaside town on the Italian Riviera, Disney and Pixar's original feature film Luca is a coming-of-age story about one young boy experiencing an unforgettable summer filled with gelato, pasta and endless scooter rides. Luca shares these adventures with his newfound best friend, but all the fun is threatened by a deeply held secret. They are sea monsters from another world just below the water's surface. It struck me in watching the trailer and choosing this as the film to preview today that Luca is just the sort of film that we need to cheer us up this year as we hopefully move towards a summer where we can get out and about and do things and share time with friends. It's directed by Academy Award nominee Enrico Cassaro and produced by Andrea Warren. Luca is released this summer around about June time.
We can go anywhere. Do anything. We just gotta stick together.
We underdogs have to look out for each other, right?
Underdogs. This is gonna be the best summer ever. We'll ride down every road. See the whole world together. amazing. But there's just one thing.
Whoa, wait! Did you see that?
No one can find out.
Please don't take my sunshine away.
Where did you boys say you were from?
There we go, something to look forward to for all the family. A nice summer movie coming out in the summer. And if the music and the cartoon there is anything to go by, it should be another great Disney Pixar movie to join many that we've had in the past. So looking at things coming up, of course, tomorrow is our regular service at All Saints Church at 9:30, which will be live streamed. And at the current time during Lent, the Tuesday evening service is moved to Monday. So that's Monday at 5 p.m. Don't forget our quiz this evening at 7:30. Everyone's very welcome to join that. And it'll be on all our usual channels. And don't forget to watch out for the Chancellor and the budget this week. It does affect so many of us, the budget, in terms of taxation and things that we can do and what it's going to cost. So we'll watch that with interest. And other than that, I'll say goodnight and look forward to seeing you 6 o'clock next Saturday and with hopefully some new stories and new things to report for you. Have a good week ahead. Enjoy the weather and stay safe.